They called him ancient, a relic of a forgotten war. He stood silently in the command hall of the dreadnought Vox Regulus, his leathery skin crisscrossed with old scars that shimmered faintly under the sterile glow. The admirals regarded him with cold amusement, half curious, half dismissive. He had been summoned to consult on the Earth campaign, a mere formality in their minds. The Galactic Empire did not lose wars, not to backwater species, and certainly not to humans. He remained silent as the Council laid out their strategy: orbital shock strikes, EMP netting, rapid troop deployment to major population centers. His sunken eyes blinked slowly once. When the youngest admiral asked if he had anything of value to contribute, he finally spoke. His voice rasped like rust grinding on rust. You've mapped their weapons, their satellites, their armies. But you've missed the threat entirely. The hall fell quiet. Even the hum of machinery seemed to pause. They're divided, Admiral Jarn scoffed. Fractured by culture, class, politics. They'll crumble like the rest. Their military is laughable. Their men weak, their women irrelevant. The old veteran exhaled slowly. It wasn't their soldiers who destroyed the Ninth Legion. Murmurs rose. They came in waves, he continued, not with guns, but with fury. Fire in their eyes. You think them soft. You think you'll subjugate them, press them into compliance. But they don't break. Not when they fight for their young. Not when they fight for their land. And certainly not when they fight for each other. An admiral rolled his eyes. Anecdotal superstition. I watched a diplomat's wife hack through armored flesh with a mining blade. I saw a schoolteacher rig a gravity bomb with household tools. We mistook their silence for submission. We mistook their care for weakness. The silence grew tense. You think you've mapped their species, he said. You haven't even begun to understand what you're dealing with. Never, ever attack Earth's women. The lead admiral stood. Enough of this. Fear-mongering doesn't serve strategy. The veteran turned to leave, not waiting for dismissal. As the doors hissed shut behind him, he whispered one last thing. You've already lost. The council chuckled among themselves. Old age, they reasoned. Perhaps madness. Orders were finalized. Earth was to be invaded within the week. Resistance was expected to be minimal. Subjugation, swift. Cultural assimilation, within the year. One admiral noted the psychological profile of Earth's population. Impulsive, emotionally volatile, self-destructive. Easy to dominate. They never noticed the note the veteran had left behind on the central holodable. 3 words, scratched into the alloy with a claw tip. They are coming. The fleet descended with clinical precision. Earth's orbital defenses blinked out in synchronized bursts, leaving the skies open. Major cities fell within hours. Communications jammed, power grids neutralized, governments paralyzed. The Empire's strategy was flawless, surgical, overwhelming, and without mercy. Human armies scrambled, then surrendered. Earth's leaders, mostly men, were detained and shipped to orbit for re-education. Civilian zones were cordoned off. Alien governors were installed with minimal resistance. Patrols roamed the streets in exo-armor, scanning crowds with impassive optics. Drones hovered overhead. Transmissions declared a new era of peace and prosperity. Compliance ensures survival. The population complied. At first, the Empire considered it one of its cleanest takeovers. Some argued it was too easy. Earth had long been a chaotic, bickering planet. Now it was quiet. Too quiet. The aliens dismissed it as shock. Adjustment. Soon, they said humans would fall in line like all the others. They barely noticed the patterns. Supply drones began to vanish mid-route. Equipment broke down without cause. Firewalls failed. Communications stuttered. A transport carrying fresh troops exploded over the Atlantic. Investigations found nothing. No human sabotage, no external interference. A glitch, they said. When a patrol squad failed to report from a rural town, it was blamed on terrain. When 3 officers were found unconscious in a sealed vehicle, they assumed human viruses were involved. But patterns deepened. Logistics reports stopped matching manifest logs. Alien personnel complained of being followed, watched, mimicked by civilians. Always women. Old, Young, solitary. No weapons. Just watching. One soldier filed a report describing a group of women standing silently outside a barracks at dusk. They dispersed without a word. 2 days later, that barracks caught fire from the inside. No evidence, no entry points, no survivors. Another unit encountered an abandoned school, building near a former resistance outpost. They found walls covered with hand-drawn maps, enemy placements, and lists of alien patrol schedules. All accurate. One page bore a warning. We remember. Security footage across dozens of installations captured flickers, unregistered movements, blurred shadows, shapes slipping through blind spots. Female civilians appeared in unexpected places. Libraries, data cores, maintenance ducts. They never spoke. They just looked and disappeared. Command attempted to respond with curfews and ID scans. Women were pulled from crowds, interrogated, searched. Nothing found, yet incidents increased. Food stores spoiled. Transports misrouted. AI systems looped into shutdown spirals. Every report began to end with the same uneasy phrase. There were women nearby. Orders came from the top to focus attention on active threats, former soldiers, blacklisted insurgents, known agitators. Women didn't fit the profile. Not physically threatening. Not armed. Not organized. Not dangerous. A junior intelligence officer submitted a memo stating otherwise. She compiled over 200 unlinked reports that shared common threads: timing, presence, escalation. She labeled the file Civilian Female Anomalies. Her superior deleted it and reassigned her. One alien officer, more perceptive than most, voiced concern. Their silence is coordinated, he said. Their passivity is selective. This is not fear. This is planning. He was ignored. Soon, whispers spread among Imperial troops. Not about Earth's military or the captured officials, but about the women. The ones who watched. The ones who didn't run. The ones who smiled at you before something exploded 10 minutes later. They weren't loud. They weren't armed. They were always there. In the capital zone, an officer returned to his quarters to find a single human-made teacup on his desk. Inside, a piece of paper. 3 words, handwritten. Still coming. Soon, morale dipped. Troops began requesting transfers. Command assumed it was climate-related. Some suggested boosting entertainment. Others proposed psychological briefings on human behavioral traits to ease discomfort. No one listened to the growing fear. They had mapped human weapons. They had cataloged Earth's defenses. But no one had accounted for its women. Not yet. It began with a silence that felt intentional. Entire districts stopped responding, not because of resistance, but because they chose not to acknowledge the Empire's presence. Screens installed to broadcast Imperial propaganda played static. When engineers arrived to fix them, they vanished. Patrols entering quiet neighborhoods lost contact within minutes. Each time, a different woman was last seen near the edge of the sector. No uniform, no weapon, just presence. Alien Command dismissed it as minor insurrection. Punishment raids were authorized. They stormed homes, detained families, issued threats. Still nothing, until an entire armored convoy drove into a dead zone and never came out. Drones sent to locate them were returned in pieces. One was found with its internal circuitry replaced by hand-wired Earth tech. It played a repeating message: "You are not welcome here." The Empire retaliated harder. Curfews became lockdowns. Searches became forced disappearances. But each escalation backfired. The more they cracked down, the more precise the attacks became. Communications hubs imploded moments after shift changes. Weapon depots caught fire with no sign of entry. Maps displayed altered troop positions in real time, changed from the inside. Imperial systems had been breached. A data audit revealed logins from sectors that had no terminals. When they traced the access patterns, they discovered makeshift signal amplifiers hidden inside human household appliances. Modems built into ovens. Processors wired into children's toys. All coded with Earth languages no alien translator could decipher. The Empire had assumed Earth's networks were primitive. They hadn't realized the resistance wasn't fighting on the battlefield. It was coding, hacking, misdirecting, and watching. One governor's mansion collapsed in on itself. The cause? Dozens of linked micro-explosives built into the structural wiring, placed over weeks during routine inspections. Security protocols were overwritten days before by a technician who was never identified. One survivor claimed he'd seen her, mid-40s, plain clothes, cleaning badge. Smiled at him, said, "You should leave." Propaganda screens began to malfunction again. Only now they showed messages. Human handwriting, images of lost loved ones, testimonies of oppression. Then they'd flicker to a phrase. "This is our home." Alien troops were unnerved. They started sleeping in shifts, double-locking doors. Some refused to patrol alone. Rumors swirled of women who could disable an exosuit with kitchen oil, of nurses who injected neural blockers during routine checkups, of young girls passing notes containing kill codes. None of it confirmed. All of it believed. High Command issued a morale briefing. It never reached distribution. The courier transport exploded midair. Investigation showed a single maintenance breach. The suspect, a woman listed as dead 2 months prior. Then came the broadcast. It hijacked every Imperial frequency. No video, just a voice. Calm, measured, human. "We are the mothers who watched you burn our cities. The daughters who listened to your orders. The wives who kissed our loved ones goodbye as you dragged them away. You thought we were weak. You mistook kindness for surrender. You mistook quiet for consent. You gave us nothing to lose. That was your last mistake." Command panicked. Emergency recall protocols were initiated. Evacuation ships scrambled. Officers demanded extraction from the zones they had once called secure. No organized resistance had ever triggered this level of retreat. Not soldiers, not weapons, just women. Patient, unseen, relentless. The alien admiral who had mocked the old veteran was found dead in his quarters. No wounds, just a note pinned to his chest with Earth-made thread. "You were warned." By the end of the week, half the command centers were dark. Escape routes were blocked, not by firepower, but by logistics. Refueling stations empty. Navigation systems corrupted. Orders redirected. It wasn't brute force. It was precision. This wasn't rebellion. This was eradication of control. The Empire had assumed dominance through superiority, but they had underestimated motivation. Earth's women weren't fighting for glory. They weren't fighting for revenge. They were fighting for each other, and they never stopped. The retreat wasn't strategic, it was desperate. Imperial ships overloaded with terrified soldiers launched without clearance, fleeing low orbit as Earth's systems turned hostile. Flight paths jammed, docking protocols rewritten. Half the escape vessels collided midair or were shut down mid-launch. Those that broke atmosphere transmitted only fragmented reports. Collapse, non-military, human civilians, command lost, requesting extraction. No answer came. On the ground, silence returned. Not the eerie, waiting kind. This one felt resolved. Deliberate. Alien banners lay trampled in mud. Barracks stood abandoned, doors hanging open. Streets were quiet, save for the occasional distant sound of something human being rebuilt. In orbit, High Command tried to make sense of the failure. Reports made no tactical sense. A planet subdued in days had expelled them in weeks, with no military resurgence, no organized battlefront, no recognized leadership. Just coordinated collapse. From within, an emergency war council was called aboard a surviving flagship. The admiral who now led the campaign addressed the gathered officers. His voice shook. "We knew their tech. We studied their culture. We infiltrated their networks. We had total control. And yet, we were undone by school teachers, mechanics, medics, and grandmothers. We didn't lose to human armies. We lost to something far more dangerous." They stared at the recovered evidence. Handwritten schematics, simple mechanical traps, altered ration packs, a recipe book filled with coded orders. One log recorded a middle-aged woman slipping through 20 checkpoints carrying only a bag of groceries. She disabled 3 systems and planted signal disruptors. Her bag had no explosives, just bread, fruit, and a kitchen knife. A message intercepted days before final withdrawal was projected onto the room's main screen. It read, "We don't forget our dead. We don't forgive quietly. We don't wear uniforms to war, but we know how to fight. You reminded us." The room was silent. The old veteran, long dismissed and buried in the Empire's bureaucracy, was summoned again. This time, no one laughed. They asked him how Earth could have done this. He spoke without looking up. "You think war is conquest. They see war as defense. You seek domination. They protect what they love. That's the difference. That's why you lost. You didn't face resistance. You provoked purpose." He stood, looking each of them in the eye, and when you gave him a reason, they responded not as soldiers, but as protectors. That is something you'll never understand. They tried to debate strategy, salvage pride, plan a return. But fear lingered, not of Earth's weapons, not of its governments, of its women, the ones who watched, who waited, who acted only when the Empire had grown too comfortable. Back on Earth, fields were cleared, streets swept, power restored by human hands. No parades, no speeches, just quiet work, healing, preparing. In the ruins of what was once a command outpost, a child played with scraps of alien tech, watched by her mother. Nearby, a mural had been painted on a wall, half in color, half in ash. It showed no warriors, just faces, determined, calm, unbroken. The message beneath, it was written in dozens of languages, but translated simply. Home was never yours to take. In the end, the Empire gained nothing but fear. A lesson etched into every officer's mind, into every future campaign briefing. A rule not found in manuals or protocols. A warning repeated in whispers through fleet corridors. Never, ever attack Earth's women.